But what I think we need to do is to think about in education systems, how do we address not only trying to teach the Indigenous people math and language, but it is about our relationship of teaching and learning that goes both ways. The insight and the way of knowledge of traditional people is something we desperately need, because we see that the fruit of our education systems are largely focused and delivering unsustainable development. And it is a matter of a century old. Whereas we look at the wisdom of Indigenous people, not that we're going to go back and live in that way, but what are the fundamental concepts? And so I want to stress the idea of learning with Indigenous people, learning from Indigenous people.
Problem, many people think that Malay medicine is only about, don't have much about preventive medicine, but in many instances we see this kind of thing where they provide a prescription for treating a disease, and then they also provide a prescription for making sure that the disease is truly effective. You can see I've color coded it. So the first part is for the treatment, and then for the adjunct treatment, so called, and then the last part in green and blue is the preventive, so to ensure that disease does not recur. So this is what we see in the Malay medical manuscripts, and we don't have this knowledge anymore in our society actually, and this is why we need to relearn and data mine our manuscript.
So, Rimbagogi is integration of pedagogy and forest element, and it allows the pedagogy to blend and integrate forest element with Indigenous traditional knowledge. The Rimbagogi will offer the opportunities for these Indigenous children to gain experience and knowledge through activities that carry out directly with forest and nature, and it seems to be synonym with the living style of the Indigenous children who adopt a rugged lifestyle and always move for survival. So due for the time constraint now, I will summarize the idea behind Rimbagogi for today into 5 pillars, so known as RIMBA: RIS, Indigenous Community; M, Malaysia Curriculum; B, Benefit; and A is Approach.
Durkheim says that, education is a way in which the society installs its own image in the child's mind, or through the process of education. Now, what happens, actually some of the previous speakers have already alluded to this idea. What happens to the children who grow up in the forest? How do they get an idea of the forest? I think my previous speaker has dwelled on this very well. But my concern was that these people, even today, don't generally have any numerical idea or capacity to count, in our sense, beyond the digit 3. So they can only count 3, and fingers are only 3. The little finger and the thumb is not counted as a finger. Given this kind of thing, and they have just recently come out, recently means for last 15 odd years, they've come out and they're interacting with the outside world much more frequently. They need to know certain language, they need to know certain amount of numeracy. They cannot be constantly kept in a protected area. They will have to be given the right to at least interact with dignity and certain kind of right to decide for themselves, self-determination, so to say.
One very important thing when we would like to help them, we must earn their trust. When we go there, we want to tell them that we have no other intention. You must know that this orang asli has been exploited. People use orang asli for many things, for lands, for political reasons, so many things. But for health, alhamdulillah, during my time, they accept our presence. There is no problem at all for us to do any intervention with orang asli. Of course, not 100%, but alhamdulillah, they trust the health team during that time. So earn the trust is very important for you to engage orang asli.
Some of the indigenous students here, they have managed to score a straight A's, 7 A's, 6 A's in secondary school examination or in SPM. So meaning to say they can upgrade themselves, right? And they know what they need to, they know what they need, and they know what they require, their interests in order to teach their community later on. So that is why we believe that by having these pre-service teachers, and then we include and we also inculcate the concept on the elements of nature gogi in pre-education, their education, in order to be passed to the generation.